welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And with me, Robbie.
And here we are with another instalment of Video Nasties. And this time we are looking at Eaten Alive, Tobe Hooper's film from 1976. Alright?
Yep, 1976.
I was questioning myself there going, 1970, yeah.
Yeah, well, we mentioned, and we'll pick it up when we get into the film, but it feels like it's made before Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which he made in 1974.
It does,
It does, which is a strange thing.
There are many elements that make it feel a bit off.
There are.
I noticed there are several films that I felt like this film felt like, which again feels more like a director starting to play with things, which I guess is weird. When you made a masterpiece as your first, basically one of your first ever films, one of his earliest films being that, it kind of starts to feel a bit like films like this feel a bit odd in comparison. It's a bit of a froth, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's directed by the great Tobe Hooper. And for those who aren't obviously aware, we have done Video Nasties as kind of like a recurring segment because they're fun films, but it's not just that they're fun films, it's that the Video Nasties were a list of, I think, 72 films that were banned, some of them with criminal proceedings in the UK. So it's kind of cool to go through them now, look at them and see kind of how they compare.
And the plus side of it is these are all films that at that point in time that they really thought were offensive films. Yeah. And therefore most of them do really kind of in some ways push the boundaries. They do. Yeah. Some of them are like this one. They're both weird, but they also have some levels of exploitation and things like that in it. Some of them have really like graphic, gory deaths. And there's a whole range of aspects that you just are really interested in. And a lot of these films, I do think it's a historical. We play this as this is a kind of our history segment. It kind of plays into what's happened in the past, but also having a chance to talk about the film. And this one again, I've got some extra history to teach you today.
Looking forward to it.
So get ready for teacher Mr. Eper.
Mr. Eper. Some of the other Video Nasties we've done, in case this is the first time you're listening, we did Nightmare in a Damaged Brain, which was a really interesting film.
Because we watched a really interesting copy of
the film. I did The Burning with Neil from Reunited Roads. I think The Last House on the Left was Video Nasty. We did that as a bit of a double.
We did the original Last House on the Left was Video Nasty. Yeah. The remake wasn't. That was different list.
And we also did Evil Dead, I believe, which was on there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure. I think
you did a half.
I did a half
one, Dead and Buried.
Yeah, I did one. I did Dead and Buried, which was, and it also wasn't. So we're making our way through the list slowly. But I mean, Eaten Alive it's a very interesting film, and it opens up. It's.
I hadn't even heard literally until I told you about the film. I'd never even heard of this film.
I watched it before.
Yeah, you mentioned you'd seen it before, and I'd never even heard of it, and the fact that that it would kind of it was only recently getting picked up by people for like its unrated status and things like that by certain crowds because it's on streaming now is the only reason it's picking up again, because it's been released onto in the UK Amazon. Amazon Prime.
I think you sent me a link by Lad Bible of
all
places.
That's where,
Lad Bible's still hanging around somehow.
All of our research comes from Lad Bible.
Yeah, that's the only reputable news source in the UK is Lad Bible.
Of course, I only read Lad Bible, and because I grew up on such significant newspapers like Nuts and Zoo magazine,
yes. which you were an astute reader of. I remember.
I paid a close attention to it as a young teenage
boy, and since then, Lad Bible has been where we get our news.
It's the best source. I mean, the Sun for many years was useful, but it got rid of page 3, and that was the most informative part.
That wasn't it? Yeah. and well, I mean that. Funnily
anyone
enough,
outside the UK got none of that. No. You didn't understand any of those jokes. The context is tits. And that's all I'll say, basically.
Well, that will lead on nicely, but before I will, as always, I will remind you to, yes, you listening, to hit the subscribe button and to please leave us a lovely review. It really does help the show grow. It keeps us motivated. We love chatting shit about horror movies, so it's always great that, to get reviews about it and to see our subscriber count growing. But speaking about seediness, this film is quite seedy.
Yeah,
and it does open.
It has a the opening is
the opening is Robert England trying to convince a young Robert England pre Nightmare on Elm Street, trying to convince a prostitute, a sex worker, a woman of the night, whatever we're referring to them as, for anal sex, and he introduces him the opening line as, "My name's Buck, and I'm here to fuck."
And I mean, Robert Englund's character. To be fair, Robert Englund, as you know, he's Freddy Krueger, but there's something about his face anyway that, there's certain menacing about him.
There is.
There's certain that seems off. When they say that Freddy Krueger might be a diddler, you believe he's a diddler.
Yeah, you believe it. But he's a class dude.
Yeah, absolutely. He's right into that southern kind of type here. And he's got many kind of, you said seedy, and he's got many scenes throughout this film that are like that dirty
just fucking
opening.
Yeah.
But his whole character is seedy. He even has a part later on where he's women under, like, what is implied in some scenes to be underage, and the cop kind of says, "That ain't a coke she's drunk."
Yeah.
So you start questioning, how old is she? And now I know the actress herself appears to definitely be of age, but it's like, we don't know. And the fact that he basically, in this opening scene, is basically almost a rape scene.
Yeah, it is.
It feels very like one of those that I've seen the closest to, say, like Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
Where it feels very like, you start to be like, shit, what film are we in for here?
It's a bit weird. And the film itself is a strange film. It's half slasher, half exploitation, half creature feature. There's many halves.
This film is this is what I mean. When we were talking, at the start about it being an odd kind of, it feels like when you get a new director, you tend to feel that they're very much taken from other directors.
Yeah,
they've taken story ideas. They're kind of starting to build their craft, which, as I said, hard to believe when you've made such a great film like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah. But then again, Tobe Hooper never could really see what was great about himself. I always feel like when I hear stuff about him, he never really quite realised how good the original Texas Chainsaw, because he himself kind of wanted it to be a little bit more out there. I feel like his second one is more the film he actually, the kind of style he almost wanted, and the first one was him kind of more
black comedy. And
the first one was him more actually held down a bit more, I believe, by producers, the original, and then the second one's more the black comedy that he kind of wanted.
Well, so we covered
we've covered Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We haven't done number 2, but we've covered that one.
And we covered the mafia ones and everything. Yeah,
and Poltergeist as well. His and that's kind of Poltergeist with Steven Spielberg collaboration there, and which is odd because I feel like the layout of the story is Psycho. It's a girl who, obviously, after Buck has tried to do his fuck, it's a girl who kind of goes off to a seedy motel, kind of
well, she gets kicked out because she's too naive, and they're saying, "You're getting paid.
You're getting paid. You should be taking it in the ass."
Taking it in the ass. For lack of a better word. But the name,
going straight for it.
The name is Clara.
Clara.
Because this whole film, I just couldn't pick up on many names apart from Miss Hattie and Buck. Apart from those.
Yeah, I really struggled with it. I told you before this. I wrote it down as her character for her sister character, who you meet later, who I also couldn't remember. I called her the Horse Sister.
The Horse Sister. Like Frank Reynolds.
or the Prozzy's dad. I think like these are the notes I was making quickly. Like, I don't know her name, but I need to have something specific to it, because I can't just say that female, because she's only in it for the opening.
She's in the opening,
but again, it's the opening of, like, you think that this might be you've seen her go for a horrible situation, you think this might be your lead character, your leading lady, you're Marion Crane.
I didn't straight away, because there's something about...
I knew she was going to die. I'm not saying it's hidden like that, but I just mean, like, the whole idea of you go to this and you've got an oddball kind of person in charge of this kind of motel in an odd kind of location,
the Starlight Hotel,
with odd things going around it. But it's not Psycho. This is Psycho meets Jaws with the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre's kind of seedy, kind of southern kind of
stank.
Yeah, like added to it. Like, because even some of the choices with the crocodile, which I gotta be honest, constantly it feels like we are making two different films and we've smashed them together in many scenes of this. But the approach that Tobe Hooper takes to the crocodile sometimes reminded me of the approach that Spielberg took to Jaws.
Yeah,
not in that exact way, but the way that you only see little parts of it, almost as if Jaws. And this is the odd thing, because Jaws was released the year before this and was a mega hit. And it sometimes makes you look at this film and go like, was he making a certain film? And then he kind of went. They were like, oh, we could sell this as like a Jaws kind of thing. Then and he's like, no, I'm making nothing like that film. And they're like, but we want it to be like that Jaws. Film. We want Jaws. So can you have him kind of suspenseful while also doing this maniac guy?
It is. I mean, it's a weird amalgamation, isn't it? But for me, it works.
Oh yeah, no, I was going into this thinking, I'm not sure. Like, I didn't think from the beginning that I wasn't going to enjoy it, but I was just kind of on a kind of, I don't know. Some of these are really weird, and when at first, it takes a little while to kind of realize that this is the weird tone. And you have right here, you've got Texas Chainsaw Massacre to Tobe Hooper. You've not got the original Tobe Hooper. You've got a very slightly different kind of way that he's going for it, because he does seem to like his dark humor, dark black comedy kind of,
and weird characters,
and weird, and odd, and and. But the other thing is that some of this totally works because of the Judd Maniac character. For some reason, some people might look at it and go, that's fucking ridiculous, I don't get this guy. And for some reason, I felt that the guy was so in for the character. He was all in that I actually was like, I can follow this guy. He's crazy and this film's weird. But I'm with it. We've got a crocodile. I think he even thinks he can communicate with him.
Well, the weird thing is that I thought that Judd he reminded me of, like, facially, of Tom Selleck if he'd been stung by bees, and he had a bee allergy. He kind of looks like a puffy Tom Selleck.
I mean, if we're talking about who I constantly thought of it, and I'm not even going to say it, I believe it's totally nailed. It's almost the same performance. He's the maniac he's Roddy Rowdy Piper. They talk and sound like almost
they
identical.
do. Yeah, I actually put that in my notes.
Almost to the point where I'd almost believe that that Roddy Piper was like, I saw that in a film once. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the guy that was maybe once at war in Vietnam, and he's just he's fucked in the head, and he's like.
But I actually put that in my notes as well. He looks like a Maniac.
I just kept thinking, and I think that's partly what made me warm to him even more. Was like, this is like the Maniac spirit. This is if that character was put in a horror film, and I was like, I'm all in for this. And I believe even Tobe Hooper, the director. I can't remember the actor. I actually have the actor's name. Neil Garrett or something around that. He said that the one thing, like, there was a lot of things with the production that, like, Tobe Hooper, I believe he walked off before the end of this film. There was obviously problems with producers again, and I always bet you it's Jaws that caused the problem about the crocodile. But one thing he said was that actor's what held this film together. Really? He was all fucking it. Like, he was in for this film.
He is. It's good. It's like when a lot of these video nasties that we've done, you watch it and it's not often do you get like good performances, but the dude is actually, Judd has a good performance. You believe that he's fucking batshit. I mean,
he's surrounded by other characters who are acting a bit batshit, but don't really pull it off the same way. I do think he's the glue that holds this film together.
He is, yeah.
Robert Englund's also actually quite good in what is just, though, a stereotypical kind of character.
And he's got a smaller role, hasn't he?
Yeah, much smaller kind of role.
But I think the opening, when Clara's been kicked out of Miss Hattie's and she goes to stay at the Starlight Hotel, I think it looks kind of cool. It's off the beaten track. The hotel looks proper run down. It has that Tobe Hooper, dirty, grimy, like I need a shower feel to it, and I think it teases the crocodile quite well. Like, so for those who haven't seen the film, you have this hotel, which is the Starlight Hotel, and it's all decrepit and share. But then it actually has like a pond or like a small, it's just like a big pond that's gated up and has the crocodile in. And the weird thing is,
it's kind of like swamp, isn't it? It's like
kind of like a swamp area.
It's like he's by the lower swamp kind of area that builds into like a larger bit. That's why he's kind of like surrounded there's kind of odd patches around him that have it like I think.
And he the owner keeps this crocodile, but it's because when the first time I watched this, I expected it okay. Like the hotel's got to be the thing that people think people disappear there, but they can't track it down, and the crocodile will be a secret. But this dude's just fucking got a crocodile, and everyone is like, "Oh yeah, the absolute nitwit. Yeah, he's got a crocodile. He's fine. A nitwit in a hotel with a crocodile. Like, don't worry about him. He's fine." Yeah, you know.
I think this film, the working title was Death Trap. Eaten Alive. So it was Death Trap. So it was like almost plays into the idea that it was meant to be like a hotel that's like basically set up so he can kill people in that way. But that's not at all the way it comes across in the film. He does almost kind of come across. He basically comes across. In my head, he was like basically a fucked up Vietnam vet. Yeah, who's just fucked in the head and just like. Thinks he almost thinks he has this relationship that he needs to help the crocodile.
Yeah, but it's weird, like, because you look at the killer's motivations throughout it, and when Clara gets kicked out of Miss Hattie's, they're like, "Oh, go to this hotel. Just don't say you're one of our girls." Yeah. And then once he gets there, he's like, "You're one of Miss Hattie's girls," and he just starts going raggo.
Yeah, and it's ripping a top open,
and it's not, and it's like. Is he trying to rape her, or is he trying to kill them? Because you
almost get a feel like he doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
That's what's quite nice. There's a confliction in it where one part feels like it's almost he's trying to grab her and hold her and getting close to her, and then the other part's like there's another part of his brain going no, crocodile.
But there's the Clara's death is quite cool. You know, she gets pitchforks.
A lot of the deaths are cool. There's solid deaths in this film, and they are quite graphic, actually. Yeah, like, I was surprised at like how like graphic. That's one thing, and that's with the video nasty part of this is that I can actually totally see why, in a lot of ways, while this one was definitely like why they would take offence in some ways. Because there's a lot of elements, and Tobe Hooper is someone who does like to push the boundaries.
Yeah,
and there are several things that you don't always see in horror films that he's pushing here, even if others had done it in some ways. Yeah, he went like, I'm going to do that, but in a really fucked up way.
He was like, "Nah, you're watching it," you know.
Yeah.
Like we've implied it, or we've just pulled away, but nah, you're fucking watching it.
For those kind of things. So the when he chases her and he gets his scythe.
It's It's like a pitchfork thing. It's not the scythe at first.
I thought was it the one he? Oh yeah, he does have a pitchfork. You're right.
The scythe's for all of the other kills, but this kill, it's almost like something that you'd use to like move hay or fish things out of the river.
Yeah, I forgot that. Like, he changes, and then pretty much all the others are.
Yeah, it's like a scythe. It's like a pitchfork, but instead of being straight, it's at like a 90-degree angle. The end is, and he hacks her, and then
which is quite effective because it's got quite a cool angle on it, where you're kind of you're not actually seeing it going into her, but you're almost at an angle, so that it kind of makes it look like you're seeing the blood spurt up the camera. So it kind of gives you a feeling like almost you're the pitchfork that's stabbing it, like you're the one who's stabbing her, which I thought was quite cool.
Yeah, it's a cool technique, man. And then when he
cool technique. Take that. Learn new techniques from us.
And then obviously like she's still kind of alive, and then she gets fucking gobbled up by the crocodile.
Yeah.
And they do, as the film kind of progresses, the crocodile is kind of teased a little bit more and more. In the first kill, she's just kind of thrown into the water, and then like the crocodile gobbles her quickly, you know.
Yeah.
As it goes on, you get more and more, which is good. I think they tease the crocodile well, because I was expecting maybe, you know, it's not going to be as prominent as it actually is. Maybe it's like, it's here and there. It's kept like, you know, in some weird like dungeon. I don't know if you can keep a crocodile in a dungeon, but it wouldn't be as much of like a focal point throughout the film. Whereas, like I said, this is just in it quite a lot. It is, or at least the area that you see it,
but you only see the slightest parts of it.
Yeah,
which makes it. You do see the mouth open and have things in its mouth and stuff, but because you can't see the whole body, it makes it work. Like there's only one major scene I can think where you see the body, which is the only time it kind of breaks it a little bit because you see it move underneath the house at one point, and it has a certain effect to it. But and it made me think of it made me think of new film X.
Yeah,
it made me think straight away of that kind of like that.
That was awesome.
Like thinking of that. I don't want to say the characters. I guess it's still fairly new. We haven't done that episode. So
I love that.
I won't talk it, but it's really good. There's some great crocodile action in there too.
Yeah, I did not expect that. No.
There's some good croc action in there, and
it's good. It's a fun film, man.
Pearl's got some good stuff too.
I haven't seen Pearl yet.
Yeah, I watched it a little while ago. It's good.
Yeah.
It works well.
I don't want to go into another tangent, so I know I will. But like after Clara's death, then we get these other people who turn up. So we get this. So I learnt by reading on Wikipedia that his name is Roy. But I sent you a picture of him, and I was like, why did you only get a certain kind of looking person in the 70s? Outside of this, you don't see people who look like this. He looks like a weird Bee Gee, you know?
Yeah,
that's what I recorded in my notes.
Yeah.
Bee Gee.
Yeah, he did. He looks like one of the Bee Gees. And yeah. Oh god, he's proper fucking weird.
He's fucking him.
I gotta be honest. I feel like I might have missed something here because I couldn't get what was really going on with their family.
So his wife is like, this was weird because you messaged me. I think I've watched it before, and this didn't stick out, and then you were probably watching it like 30 minutes ahead of me.
Yeah, because I was literally trying to work out if they were like... Because she, at one point, changes her hair.
Yeah.
So I was like trying to work out if it was going to be like there's some kind of grifters or con or like... or what he was doing. I didn't know if it was ever actually explained. Like, what if they... Because they're not a fucking normal family.
No.
He walks into a room and just... He sits in this really, like, creepy freaking room and just, like... He's just sat there like he's, like, broken in certain ways, which... There is a reason in some ways for that, but at the same time, he's just basically completely ignoring his broken-hearted child, and he's just like in his own little kind of weird world. And the wife just looks like the wife seems like she just fucking hates him the entire time.
Yeah, well,
like,
I think there's supposed to be. There's supposed to be, like fighting there.
Yeah,
but then we get Faye. Apparently, her name is. Her husband Roy, which is a classic 70s name, and then the young daughter and the family dog. Now, naturally, in this film, the dog is going to get gobbled up. So the dog gets gobbled up, and then they go upstairs, and I don't know how Judd is like, it just happens. Like, the crocodile just gobbled your dog up. What do you expect? But it's kind of cool because we see the dog, run off a little bit, and then we see like a quick shot of the dog getting scrammed.
Yeah, but I again, that was part of that kind of movie that they pushing the boundaries and because the whole thing with the dog is something that again you don't really see that often. You don't really see the dog might disappear or things like that, but this literally had it kind of made it seem worse because you see the dog and you see the dog push through the gate.
Yeah.
And then you see the dog in the crocodile's mouth, but you also hear this proper loud squeal of the dog as it gets mad. And you've got the daughter there who's basically just watching her dog get mutilated, get eaten. Yeah. She's screaming, and there's something that makes it worse because he's both mixed in a child being shown violent and traumatized, and we know that Tobe Hooper likes to play on the themes of traumatized, but it's really hard to watch that scene with the dog and just because as a dog owner, for one.
Yes.
But anyway, it's not just that. It's just the fact that I almost didn't expect it. I expected maybe the dog might disappear, but I didn't expect him to full on go for, like, we literally see this, puppet dog inside of the mouth or whatever, however it might look. But
I
the
expected
squeal
the dog
of
to
the dog.
survive. Because I expected the dog to survive. Sorry to cut in, because the dog I just cut in. No, I do not care. But the dog usually survives. I'm sure. So Tobe,
it's a trait that quite often you think the dog's died, and then there it is to save the dog.
Funnily enough, Tobe Hooper did a film called Crocodile in the year 2000, and I remember it when I think it was a straight to TV film, and I remember watching it when I was like really young. I must have maybe like 10. I remember watching it. I watched it like 2 years ago as well for some reason. And there's a very similar scene in this, and there's a very similar dog, and you think that the dog dies, but at the end the dog ends up like coming towards them, and you're like, oh yeah, cool. So I was thinking, I saw this, I thought, Tobe, you have tried to do this same trick on me. And I was like, oh, dog's going to go away. We see the dog later, and then the dog just got gobbled up, and I was like, oh, okay, that's where we're going.
It's trying to get things like that, but I know because he likes to play on the psychological and the traumatizing, because that is part of his, and there's almost something about trauma to women in this film, to be honest. It feels a little bit like, as a young girl, as a bit older, when she's obviously had to been through some shit and ended up as a prostitute or whatever. And then you've even got the sister that comes in later, or the wife that's kind of broken a bit by her marriage, and you've got all these different kinds of women that are shown in a both traumatized way, but also quite often exploited way as well.
Yeah, it's really exploitative.
So you've got because I was thinking because obviously you've got the prostitute on the verge of rape, and then we have and the things that everything starts happening. We've got the violence of her death and the death of the dog, and and that whole squealy nature of it. And then you've got, which is one of those taboos that I was talking about. And then so that felt so horrific. Like the little girl, and she just sees several horrific events in front of her. And not just the dog, and not just the stuff with her parents, but she sees murders in front of her. But also she sees her mother getting violently beaten and wrapped up in a sack, and it's like, holy shit, this child is being properly fucked up here. You're really pushing by having the child there in that situation. You have children in a horror film, but I feel like I haven't seen a child in this kind of full on how many traumas can we put you through in one scene. Normally they're scared by a monster, or we've seen child deaths before, obviously in Pet Sematary and It and things like that, but this literally just felt more we're going to just push you through how many traumas can we put you through.
We're going to trap you into the house.
Losing your pet, losing your innocence, losing your dad, losing your not quite losing your mum, but still believing your mum is dead and actually getting to physically see what you think is her getting beaten to death in front of you, things like that. That is properly that kind of that trauma. It really plays on that child innocence. But then with the older women, we've got the exploitation that comes with both the mum and with Clara's sister. Yeah. Which I was a little bit kind of surprised by some of the scenes. With Clara at the beginning, I was like, okay, well, I guess you're in that situation. Yeah, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, you're the opening kill, mate. Sorry.
But with her sister, you get that one scene where we're basically just watching her undress, and it doesn't really seem like there's any reason for it. There's no need for it.
No.
Apart from the fact that she's basically, there are noises going on in the motel around her, so it's when's she going to notice? Maybe once she's taken off all the clothes.
When she's naked, then she'll notice. It's a bit okay. But
it makes me think of that Patrick Stewart in Extras, Yeah. And the thing is, and I've already seen everything.
I love that so much. It's so good. But going back to the BG looking dude, Roy.
Oh yeah.
That scene where the dog's been scranned, and they go into scranned for non-Gloucester people means eaten, gobbled up. He's been eaten alive. They go into this room. The mum starts doing something, like you said. It almost looks like it's a different actress. I swear her hair
she takes this black wig and then she's blonde. And,
all this makeup off.
And it was really hard. Yeah, it was really hard to tell if it was the same person or not.
And then Roy, he's going fucking weird. Like, he's doing this thing where I've put BG looking dude tries to Professor X her. It's almost like he's like holding his hand out towards her and it's like shaking.
That's why I was saying, like,
trying to get into her brain.
That was part of why I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Is there some kind of... even, to be fair, with the maniac, with the character, because whenever he's got this kind of change with the crocodile, he has... There's this sound that plays, this like, as if he's like having it. I was like, is this film about to get weirder by saying this, like, basically, like, telepathic, crocodile. Like... Not only is it Roy is getting interrupted by the crocodile's telepathic abilities, which are affecting the maniac. You know, I was like, I was going into that. I was like, what the fuck's going on? This dude is either has some weird power, or the dude is fucking on PCP.
Both of those would be class films. Well,
he's on something because he
is. I'll bring that up later because I noticed it. But then the dad also does this weird thing where he's like saying about how he's got to get his eyes gouged out and how he wants the woman to gouge his eyes out, and he's like proper screaming it. And then he starts barking. And I was watching this and I was thinking, imagine being like, I don't know, a 10-year-old girl, or being 10 years old, and then your little dog has been eaten by a crocodile, and now your dad is barking, saying he's going to gouge his eyes out, and like trying to like. I sent you the meme of it, but it's almost like he's trying to get into his mum's head with like Cerebro from X-Men. You know, it was so weird.
It is so, and I don't understand.
I don't understand.
I don't know why.
I don't understand, but I like it. You know,
I like it because it's fucking weird, and I accepted that this film is weird. So I was like, okay, I'm in for the weirdness.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one part. Yes, the maniac and all that is crazy and lots of things. But this is one scene that breaks into a whole different level of just weird. Like, you're literally just like, I thought this was just a family who had just gone to a motel and who were normal, I guess, maybe fighting, but they're just a family. But then the dad just changes up the whole scene. Like, the mum doesn't seem that weird. You know, she seems fairly normal. So it just, that one character breaks this all.
So good.
And then he goes from what seems like he's like sitting in a chair, like he's fucking
barking,
Moon Age daydream, like that, just off into the clouds. And then the next time we see him, he's deciding, oh no, actually I should do something about this. Yeah. And he's suddenly kind of almost trying to be back to a normal character who's like, I'm getting a shotgun and I'm going to kill that crocodile. And suddenly, and he seems like he's completely different characters. It's like, who the fuck are you?
I find the weirdest thing is that whilst this is happening, Clara's sister and dad turn up and check into the hotel, and then they go up to a room. I think. I don't know. They go to Miss Hattie's.
They get the keys and then
they go to Miss Hattie's.
Yeah, because the judge slips up and says about that he's got the, like, as if he makes implication that he's seen her around that area.
Yeah, so he's one of Miss Hattie's girls.
So dad's like, I must go there tonight and go and see them. So.
Yeah, and then I don't know. So that makes sense because I was thinking, how is this all going on when they're not in? But then Roy's death is pretty cool when he goes to shoot the crocodile and the maniac, scythes him in the throat. And at first, I was thinking, oh, he's got his scythe's quite a cool weapon anyway. But then when he sticks it like right into his throat, and then Roy is like staggering around for like 20 seconds, and it lingers on it. And it's real like the first time I watched it, I remember thinking, I don't think this is that bad, I don't think it'd be a video nasty. And then when I watched it again, there was so much of the actual violence that I kind of like. I just remember it, like I remember the scythe going into his neck and it cut off. I remember Clara getting maybe hit with the pitchfork maybe 2 or 3 times and then it cutting off.
Yeah,
I don't remember just how much it lingered on the violence.
It does feel quite strong. It does feel quite strong in the violence. Like a lot of the gore feels like it lingers for a while. And I feel like it looks actually pretty effective.
Yeah,
like the effects look
especially
pretty good.
For
like
1976.
the scythe through the neck, I thought actually looked pretty damn good.
Yeah,
him like lingering around in pain, like actually really sold it. Again, why I think like I don't know what the fuck was going on with this character or this actor because it's like it seems like he's playing this part really well compared to other parts where I'm like I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
but no, that's really effective, and he's not the only death that gets it through the neck though, is he?
I'm sure
no.
the dad gets cut as well.
He lingers around with it through his throat as well.
But compared to Texas Chainsaw, which doesn't really have any blood, it's a jump up in the violence. You know,
this is why like the more when I like after like when I looked at things after and I heard that there'd been like Tobe Hooper going off after producers and how they affected it. It just makes me wonder to a certain level, like whether we're basically seeing like an actor do two scenes where he's been told by completely different people to do them, and they're kind of splicing together like what they can of like a story or what it is, or as if someone else has put this together. Because even like I said about like you know the whole Psycho Marion Crane thing, where you've got the lady at the start who dies, and then you've got the parent and the who like in Psycho obviously is like the sister or whatever, and her boyfriend that come looking. Yeah, you've got the two characters that come looking that start like asking questions around and asking around town, and like a lot of it plays out. It plays very out
quite similar, doesn't it?
And then with the added on, but then there's just the added on full on maniac with a crocodile kind of thing. But
well, then he starts beating the shit out of the wife, and then the daughter hides under the house,
and he starts chasing through, and you have Buck show up again at that point just to annoy him for one scene.
Yeah,
like, he knows and then he goes away, and then we get the bar scene with Layla.
Yeah. Well, we get before that because
he's like, Buck, I don't know what the fuck he was.
I don't know what he said half the time, and it didn't have subtitles, so I couldn't understand either.
Who would write those subtitles?
I know it is like the Maniac, but there was something that that really stood out to me. It made me laugh so much. Is that when they go to visit Miss Hattie's, or Miss Hattie for some reason is dressed like an accountant. She's got like that. I
messaged you because she's like one of the first things you see in the film, and I was more perplexed by her makeup. I was like she's either an old woman who for some reason they've given really fucking thick foundation. Yeah. But it also looked like it was but the hands made me think it was an older actress. But at the same time I was like, you kind of look like a younger actress who they've caked in grey makeup to make you look like you're an old woman. I couldn't work out what... Again, she looked completely like a character I'd expect to see in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. She looked like as if he'd added something to make it look like her skin was more rotted or kind of broken, or like she was really quite decrepit. Yeah. And straight away threw me off completely because I was like, you look completely out of place. You don't look like a human.
I just loved that she was wearing like a shirt and one of those like classic see-through green visors.
Oh yeah,
an accountant, or like a golf player.
Yeah, like so a golf player or like an old like poker player. So you expect to see in some like Las Vegas casinos walking around like putting coins in slots.
But the film also I put features probably the worst sheriff ever because Harvey Wood and Libby, as they're known, who's obviously Clara's dad and Clara's sister. Yeah, they go to the sheriff and they're like, well, our daughter's missing. She was staying at this hotel. He's like, oh, what, the hotel run by the weird dude with the crocodile? Yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it. Yeah, we know he's got a crocodile, he's fine. He's fucking weird, but he's fine. And then they're like, well, we think that, she went to this brothel called Miss Hattie's. He's like, oh, Miss Hattie's brothel, yeah, let's go there. And he just takes her to this brothel. Yeah. And he's like, doesn't care that there's like prostitution happening. No. It's so weird.
Yeah, there's a complete confliction with this cop because you either get the cop who basically knows that the town is corrupt, but he's basically just like, nah, like I'm
turning a blind eye.
I'm getting paid off to get this, or or you get a Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of one, who is actually part in on all of it or whatever, and that kind of twist. But instead, he seems to be something of both. Like, he doesn't care, might be corrupt, but then they also have scenes that make him seem like he's a more understandable, nice, like maybe a nice guy. But because they've set him up at the start where he doesn't seem to care about a whorehouse or a crocodile madman, I was just sat there the whole time going like, are you going to diddle the sister?
Well, that's the weirdest thing.
When are you going to diddle her? Because it seems like the whole time you've just been perving on her.
That's the weirdest thing, is he, after they go to Miss Hattie's, and Miss Hattie's like, nope, never seen her. The sheriff's like, yeah, Dad, why don't you go back to the hotel? Daughter, I'm going to take you out for dinner. And it's like, what the fuck? He's like trying to fuck on the job.
Yeah.
I respect. But come on. He's
like, here's this gorgeous blonde. I'm going to send your dad away because you should really check and I'm going to bang you.
Yeah, he's just like, you're the... Yeah, your sister's a horrendously abused victim. Well, I'm going to bang you.
That's the other thing. To the father who's looking for his daughter, who he believes has got off or has possibly ended up in a whorehouse. Yeah. So the town that allows this to happen, and I've just let you go into a whorehouse, and I'm the cop who knows about the whorehouse. Father, who's the parent to these victims that you've been looking for all this time, you go and leave your other daughter with me. I'm going to take her away from you. You go off and leave her by herself, and you go back to the motel.
Crocodile madman.
Yeah, you go back there, and it's just like, so that maybe I can sell your daughter back to the house.
It's so weird.
And the cycle begins again, kind of thing. But he said that. But then it's the fact that when they get to it, you keep on expecting him to like hit. I keep on expecting him to hit on her, do something pervy, try to get her, or turn out to be that kind of Texas Chainsaw, like, right, I'm going to throw you in the back of the van now. We're
to be corrupt.
We're going to be that. And instead, he's actually having like a nice conversation. He's like, here's a meal. He at no point does he actually try to be the perv I'm expecting him to be. And also, to be fair, his character comes to almost nothing as well, to be fair, now that I think about it.
No, he doesn't really do it.
Because he doesn't end up... He's not like you've set up this whole character and then he doesn't end up at the motel. He doesn't end up trying to fight. He just leaves her and basically said, I'll take you back. There we go. And he ends up being a nice guy. When you're expecting him basically to maybe even go back to the motel and be like, right, now we're back. Let's get to bang.
Yeah. But the weirdest thing is that she orders food. I don't know why I found that so weird.
Yeah, I found it.
She's like, I'll have a chicken steak. A chicken fried steak.
Yeah.
So I've just Googled it and I will not show you. What do you reckon a chicken fried steak is?
I believe a chicken fried steak is a piece of chicken that basically that's coated in breadcrumbs. It looks like, like a chicken tender, but like a big one.
you would be almost correct in thinking
Doesn't
that.
It normally
it's actually a beef steak coated with seasoned flour. So it's like
wait, it's beef.
Beef. I don't know why it's called chicken
fried. Like a chicken then. It's fried like they fried like the fried chicken.
Fried chicken, yeah.
But still, yeah, that's...
I was like, that's what I assumed. All my life I've been like, it's
I thought I'd seen a chicken cutlet, and I thought
you can get a chicken cutlet
because they normally put it in their gravy, American gravy or whatever. I don't know what it is. It's a white sauce.
Yeah,
it looks weird. It doesn't look like what I would say gravy is.
Yeah. it looks nice. I'll admit.
I think I actually had it when I was in America, and cornbread, which I did not like.
Yeah,
cornbread just tastes like.
Don't offend our American viewers and listeners, please.
I probably will, but cornbread over here is basically like, I don't know, like a sponge cake.
Yeah,
it's a sweet cake basically. I was expecting it to be like a savoury kind of bread that looks a bit like cornmeal, but no, it literally tastes like having like a slice of like sponge cake.
Oh, what
is what it kind of tastes like?
Yeah, I thought it'd be like savoury.
No, it's properly sweet. It's like really sweet. So I was really like. It didn't go with what I was eating. So I was like, why have I got a slab of cake? Which kind of reminds me of like dinner lady kind of
I know
secondary school kind of cake. I was like, why have I got a slice of that cake on my savoury meal? So yeah, no offense. Maybe I had bad cornbread. It was a pretty fancy restaurant.
Yeah. but then when the dad gets back to the hotel, he then hears the kid crying, and then he looks under the thing and he sees the kid, and then he just gets butchered again, which is cool.
Yeah. That's what I remember. That's why the scythe again. He gets it in the neck. Though. Yeah, it's violent, and there's a lot of blood and a lot of kind of shock that comes with that.
Yeah, but I think
we had the mum like screaming in her bed. For quite a few while of it. She's been tied up. She's still alive. Yeah. She was just beaten like hell.
It's not even quite a long film either. I think it's like an hour
and a half.
Hour
and 31 minutes.
Hour and 31.
It was about that, I think.
And then if you take 2 minutes off for credits, let's say.
Yeah.
Maybe, it's
not
a long...
There's a bit of a little short credit thing at the start as well.
Tiny little short credit. Yeah. Because it runs through it quite quick. Because once the dad turns up, he gets he gets sliced up. And then I love the scene in the bar.
Obviously they all end up with the crocodile.
Yeah, they all end up gobbled.
They're all gobbled.
But the scene where Buck is playing snooker and he's with that clearly underage girl, and then the sheriff says to him that's not. I don't think that's Coca-Cola she's drinking, and kicks him out. He goes back to the Starlight Hotel, and then he just turns up ready to pound again. I'm sure he says, "My name's Buck, I'm here to fuck again." It's like his catchphrase, But Buck's death is cool as well, Buck's death is where we properly see the crocodile, I think.
Yeah, pop out kind of thing, because Bucks is just pushed into the water.
Yeah.
I don't know why he thinks, because obviously he's there to fuck, and we get quite a bit of this girl who is implied underage, and then we get several scenes of, although we know the actress obviously isn't, we get scenes where she's
it's implied that she's
we get scenes where basically it almost cuts off of where Buck's putting his hands down, and basically, and he turns around at one point, which I was basically just asking, he was gonna say I was waiting for her to basically be screaming or want to get out, because he's basically now, I finally get what I wanted at the beginning of the film.
That's what I thought he was.
I was waiting for that scene, but instead he gets disturbed by the noises that they're hearing of the mum banging.
Yeah.
Banging against the wall, and then you get the music that Judd's turning up the country music, so you've got this country soundtrack out, and Judd's just sat there in the room, just walking around with his thoughts and his crazy way.
And do you know what the best thing is? So earlier in the film, he got shot in the leg in his wooden leg that the crocodile gobbled up by Roy. Yeah. Roy shot him in that leg, but he also got a bit injured in the scuffle. I think maybe it gets a bit of shrapnel in him or something. And the way in which he heals himself is he just gets a massive bag of coke out and just takes a massive bump and is screaming in this room to himself, muttering. And I'm like, you're healing? It's like a video game. He just heals himself with cocaine. And I'm like, fair enough, Judd. Crack on. Yeah. Who in the right mind would sell cocaine to Judd?
Yeah,
and a big bag of it as well. You're weird as fuck. You have a crocodile. Yeah, have 20 grams of coke. You'll be fine.
This giant bag of coke.
This giant bag of cocaine. Nothing will get worse.
Judd's character, after inspecting all of that, gets pushed behind. He seems to not think at all. He's sorry, I said Judd's character, not Judd. Buck's character. Buck seems to totally believe he's a badass, and he doesn't seem to think that Judd is in any way harmful.
No,
because he's willing to stand over this broken thing with Judd behind him making crazy comments, going, he's there to eat, and he's there to gobble up, and he's not. You shouldn't do that. You don't do that. All that kind of craziness. His mind is in the universe.
He's committed to it.
He's totally in there, but Buck doesn't seem to give two shits, so I don't know why it was a surprise when he gets pushed into there. Yeah. And he swims out and he's like, I'm gonna fuck you up when I get out of here, and just as he's about to, the croc gets him from behind, and we get a proper kind of shot of the croc actually come up and pull.
It looks cool. I like it. It does look. this is one of the films that, you know, despite it's not got a massive budget, so I think that obviously some shots they're using a real crocodile, you know, documentary style kind of footage.
I think some of it just looks like it's a person in a suit with a shell on top.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Some of it looks kind of low budget, but kind of in a cool way. And I'm really surprised that despite, you know, all of the films that got rebooted or remade in the early 2000s, because you got loads, you know, you got Hills Have Eyes, you got random stuff like The Hit Show and really kind of small films. I'm surprised this didn't, because it's almost such a... Yeah, it's an amalgamation of Psycho and Jaws with Tobe Hooper's own really weird twist to it. But it has a really distinct vibe. And having this story of this, like, dilapidated old hotel that's got this kind of death trap crocodile also there... There's quite cool potential that they could do
I'm surprised
with it.
Or even something like the Lake Placid franchise didn't try to steal it as one of its sequels or something.
Yeah, you know, I'm really shocked at that.
Yeah, but then I'm not quite sure how successful the film was.
I mean, it probably wasn't.
It feels like an odd one, and it feels like it probably, because I haven't heard about it much in terms of Tobe Hooper, but I couldn't really find much in terms of how it actually did at the box office or anything like that.
No, I never can.
So I feel like, and it obviously being what it was, we know that it was actually affected. I believe not just in the UK but also in other countries and the US, it was actually affected for it. So it was seen as quite a controversial film worldwide.
And it was, you know, it was one of the first video nasties as well. You know, we're speaking about the films on the list. I believe it got a cut. It got like a censored cinematic release in 1976, but then when it came out on home video in 1982, that's when it got properly banned. And then I read that it got re-released but further edited in 1992, and then eventually fully released uncut in 2000.
But it was still quite a hard film to actually get hold of. Because they didn't really give it much of a release and things like that. Probably because, again, it didn't do that well, I don't think. So it was kind of under the radar kind of thing. So a lot of companies probably like, oh, well, we're not really going to put the money into making a copy of something that no one even knows about.
Once.
Because I feel like this is one where actually the video nasty and the unrated status of it, because it was such a kind of an oddball kind of one, I feel like this actually is not a case of, you know, The Exorcist or Evil Dead or things like that, where these were quite big films that caused kind of gathering and had quite a critical acclaim and things like that. Because this was a one that wasn't greatly critically received, things like that, I feel like the unrated and the video nasty, oddly for this one, kind of buried it. It made it so that no one really knew what it was, so even when it was unrated, no one had known it. No one had really even seeked it out. It wasn't one of the ones that was like paying loads of money in black market. There's not much about that either. And even if you look online, there's actually very little at all about this film. There's not, like, every other video nasty we've done, I've kind of looked online and I've tried to research what it was, and I could barely find much comment on this film at all in a lot of ways, you know. Yes, it's got Wikipedia and all those kind of things, but normally a lot of these ones have had such like pages of like where people have done like other research and other things that have found out about it, or even the BBFC normally has a page, like a lot of the other ones, they had an actual page on their thing stating why that film was banned and stuff like that and why it's part of their history. But this one just seems to be forgotten. It seems like it's just been kind of
we banned it.
I guess that's the difference. I guess Last House on the Left and Evil Dead and those ones are all much more critically acclaimed and much more kind of seen as iconic classics. And this, I guess, is the kind of, I guess, failed follow-up to Texas Chainsaw Massacre for Tobe Hooper. You know what I mean? He did have... We know that Tobe Hooper is a director who, love. He's got some great stuff and a lot of stuff, but he has got a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't even realise is there. Because Texas Chainsaw kind of seems like it overshadowed, but it also seemed to have... it set an expectation for a bar for something that I don't think was completely his vision and style at times. Like, it was, but it wasn't exactly what he'd totally lean into. And when he started showing people what he did kind of like, this kind of odd, dark, kind of black comedy weird mix, a lot of people didn't like it. And that's kind of why I feel like Tobe Hooper sadly ended up being a bit of a quite underrated kind of director. Yeah. Because a lot of people just couldn't get with his vibe. And he's got a lot of films that I've looked at and have a similar kind of very mixed reaction.
Well, yeah, I think he liked making weird. I mean, he did a lot of horror films, so I do think he liked making horror films. But I think he liked making horror films on his terms and being like, I want to make it fucking weird. You know,
there's a lot of cases of him having trouble with producers and directors, and finishing certain films, like we mentioned with Poltergeist. That there's a lot of question of, is it fully his film and things like that we talked about in that episode. And there's a lot of those things with Tobe Hooper, so it's kind of hard to tell whether he was a director that was really tricky to deal with, or whether it's the fact that he was constantly having his full vision kind of impacted by producers. And so it's interesting that this is one that I think definitely, even more so than say Evil Dead or stuff like that. I think this one, I understand more why it's a video nasty, because of its exploitation and its violence and gore. I feel like I understand it even more than say Evil Dead and stuff like that, why I could see it was banned or unrated, because I feel like the weirdness adds an extra uneasy element to this film.
I mean, it's seedy, isn't it? It's definitely a lot seedier and exploitative than Evil Dead, but I think Evil Dead's gore is just
Evil Dead does have an insane amount of gore, so I know why it's a video nasty. I just mean that, like, I still fil like there's so more, almost in some ways, straightforward about Evil Dead than this is.
Oh, definitely.
And if you think at that point in time, I feel like like you said, the seediness and just that odd kind of psychedelicness that he kind of brings to this film makes it feel really. I feel like I could imagine how people would feel really uneasy with how this film shows itself. Let's just, as we've kind of talked through we've kind of talked through a lot of the film, but let's kind of get to the ending of the film. Yeah. After the pervy policeman, like the pervy cop, is taken the sister back home and not done the pound. In fact, he's just disappeared. He's just left it with her.
He just drops her off a box.
This was one where we had an odd. We have the where the crocodile is kind of properly unleashed, and kind of goes, and we have this is where we get one that's almost a full shot of the crocodile, where he goes underneath the house chasing the little girl,
which is a really cool scene.
It's a really cool scene, although the look of the crocodile reminded me of like a plastic toy I had when I was a kid of a crocodile, because it looked very plastic. The look of him. When he was moving through it, the scene that I found it a little bit funny, the kind of the way he's kind of moving through that kind of thing is the only time we see that kind of shot, and I think it's the only thing where it's like it definitely works better when he's not shown at all. Luckily, it doesn't push any more than that. I was really glad to see they didn't decide to be like the crocodile's fully out there on the land right in front of you.
Yeah, that's what I expected, because earlier in the film, Judd mentions that they can run as fast as horses or something like that. You know, so I was like, oh,
you see, to be fair, it is a proper speedy clip. Like when he actually comes out, you do, as I say, you see him, but he's gone after that charm in like a second.
Horse.
Yeah. And then we kind of we have. Where she's like climbing up and being like chased, and Judd start going fucking crazy because the croc is actually about. Yeah, it seems to be. Again, I'm still not sure if there's meant to be some kind of psychic.
I think maybe they're brothers.
Yeah. My brother the crocodile. Sounds like something you'd have in the South, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Apologies to listeners from the South.
Southern listeners. And then
it's really fast though. The ending just seems like ending,
that's what I mean. It goes very quick at the end because Buck dies, and then the sister
goes headfirst into. He goes like headfirst into basically headfirst straight into the crocodile's mouth. That's it, isn't it? Like he basically gets like pushed headfirst straight. Does he push or does
no? I think he just falls.
He runs forward and just falls forward straight into his mouth.
Because the sister is kind of walks in on all this shit happening. I think.
Yeah,
and then I'm sure he chases her with a scythe, pushes her over the side. She's like...
He does. There's a lot of grabbing and pulling with the sister and with Faye, the mum.
Faye, yeah. And he's, I think the sister is hanging over the end. Libby, whatever her name is. She's like holding on to, the fucking hell. What has happened to my brain? She's holding on to the fence. She's holding on to the fence, and she's like
screaming to try and get through.
Yeah,
because he's coming and they're trying to push her over.
Yeah, and then the crocodile's there.
Yeah, and that's kind of that. I feel like that just kind of leads to
him falling in,
and then it's just like, oh, we're done.
Yeah, we do see him die quite like.
We see his prosthetic leg floating in the water.
But he gets he gets gobbled a bit. It's a bit more of a
there's a little bit more there than just like gone in a second, but it does feel like fast.
Yeah,
it feels like his head goes in and gets a bit chewed on. And then you just see his floating leg.
Yeah.
And then I was just done. I was like, oh, okay, we're over.
Yeah, literally the leg floats up. The girl comes out from under the house. And then it's like credits.
That's what I mean. Like the fact that, and I don't think we ever said Clara's sister's name, but Clara's Libby. Libby is the fact that she's basically only in these odds. She follows like her dad about for a couple of scenes, and then she's with the cop, and then she's there. And basically, all we get actually for setup between her and Judd, really. Like, you think that she's, okay, I guess that she's going to be the main final girl here. Which I guess she is, but she basically doesn't really do anything apart from order a chicken fried steak, get perved on by a cop, and then shows up and then shows her tits, walks around in a room with her tits on display.
And then that's it.
Puts her back on, and then basically just helps with Faye. She almost feels like you could have removed every scene with her in it and it wouldn't have made any difference to the film at all. Like, she doesn't really feel like she does anything to act. She's kind except for they want, like, the blonde, but they've already got a blonde to be that character. Yeah. Their mum's the blonde, but it feels like he just wanted another woman to be that.
Yeah, it's very quick, and then it just kind of ends, doesn't it, It's all very quick and very, very weird. But I love it. I think it's a good film, man. I really enjoyed it.
And so I told you before about there is believed to be a true story that this is about.
Yeah.
So it is about Joe Bull.
Yeah.
Bull. Sorry, not Joseph D. Bull. D. Bull, the Butcher of Elmdorf.
Okay.
Is what it's called. So basically, they believe that Tobe Hooper may have based, or the writer who did this, who's the same writer who did Texas Chainsaw, who wrote this, they believe it was based on the true story that was happening around the same time in the South. So it's a pretty. I'm going to read the note that I've got for you here.
Educate me.
It's a bit of a gruesome story that still shocks people today. The Butcher of Elmdorf. So Joseph D. Bourne was born and raised in Elmdorf in the early 1930s. He opened a tavern in the small town just southeast of San Antonio. The tavern became like a weekend party spot, but things all changed when a barmaid named Hazel disappeared.
Okay.
So, according to Ball's right-hand man, Clifton Wheeler, Hazel and Ball had a romantic relationship, and Wheeler told the county deputies that Ball was jealous type, and when he found out that she wanted to start a new life with another man, he shot her in the back.
Oh, damn.
But Wheeler said he knew all of this because he helped Ball get rid of her body. In very graphic detail, he said they stuffed her body parts in a barrel and burned her head along with her belongings. Okay. The barrel was later found in plain sight after deputies noticed a strange odour coming from it. So that's kind of the start of it. But when authorities went to arrest Ball, he asked if he could lock up the tavern first. While doing so, he pulled out a gun and shot himself in the chest.
Okay.
Days later, authorities discovered more berries buried nearby.
Yeah.
And it was reported how many, though. Rumours began to surface that a pool behind the tavern had 5 alligators inside of it.
Okay.
And inside, and they believe that's played the role in disposing of the body. So he'd literally kept alligators as his kind of pet. And he'd been claimed basically all the people that had come into the tavern, he'd been murdering them and disposing of them in there.
Well, fucking hell. Know that.
So yeah, so he so Wheeler claimed Ball fed some of his victims to the reptiles, but however, that's the thing. There was no true evidence, so it's kind of odd that they've got mixed reports on the
just
actual
like
alligators, if they were real or if it was made up. But you've got his best friend or something who's saying certain things, but then it's like, well, the one that they found was mainly the one that was in the wheelbarrow, like the barrel. But why would you do the one in the barrel? But all of this kind of odd nature around it, and it being set at this kind of secluded kind of tavern and stuff like that, they believed inspired the story of the maniac that we have here, Judd.
It makes kind of sense.
But yeah, it makes sense within that quite a few of Tobe Hooper's things, or even the writer. Obviously, we know the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was based on quite a true story, so it makes sense that he kind of takes a lot of these things from other ideas, kind of thing. It kind of brings those together. However, at the same time, I'd believe it if he just ripped off Psycho and Jaws.
Yeah, but I didn't realise that it was based on a true story, or potentially
or elements of a true story, or the craziness of those people who make up stories about it, or how rumours can get around, and he's just a crazy crocodile guy.
It's fucking weird, man.
Yeah.
What did you think about Eaten Alive overall, though? Just to kind of wrap up.
Well, I mean, as I said, all of these video nasties, I feel like so far have like earned their claim to it. And actually, I don't think there's a video nasty yet that I haven't liked. Because I expected some of them to just be pure exploit and nothing else to it. So I haven't seen one I haven't enjoyed so far, and this one pretty much exactly the same. But it's really fucking weird. It's weirder than the other ones. It's a less complete, it's a less classic film than the other ones. But as an exploitative kind of gory, kind of odd mix of, you'd never expect to see the two mixed together. Like I said, the idea that, say, Psycho and Jaws could be brought together in this odd way is not so that you could quite understand how that could happen, but it's happened here. And it's definitely worth a watch. It's fun. I think I found it quite fun.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All the performances were pretty good. It was raised by the fact that I do think that the deaths are actually quite gory.
Yeah,
and it helps you get past, maybe for some people who might struggle to get past basically the lack of consistency or cohesion in what's going on around you.
Yeah,
but it is all held together by the maniac that is Judd. Yeah, he's just fucking crazy. Great. The poster for the film shows, I don't know if he's going to be standing on land behind it, but it makes it look like he stood on the back of a crocodile with a scythe in his hand.
Yeah, it does.
And I got to be honest, I was kind of waiting for that scene of him just going by on the river, just scything people, or going all of the girls end up in the water, and he ends up on the back of the crocodile. I'm a coming. That's what I kind of wanted to see.
That would be pretty class.
So I was a little bit let down by that.
Yeah, unfortunately, remove one star from that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
not quite a classic because of that. That would have made it a big star in Hollywood.
Yeah, we'd have a franchise. Yeah. No, I think I kind of agree with you. There is something about it that has this charm. I mean, I'm a big fan of Tobe Hooper. I think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, towards the later end of his career, I feel like he got fucked over by producers, and I think he was a director who had a certain way about him and about how he made films. Like when you're watching a Tobe Hooper film, and I think it is. It's not quite up there with Texas Chainsaw, but it does feel like it's kind of a bigger budget than that. I mean, Texas Chainsaw is obviously Texas. This is Louisiana or something like that. Yeah. So you could imagine it being in the same world that Texas Chainsaw happens. They're both,
definitely the sequel.
Yeah, they're both relatively similar in aesthetics.
You can feel that same aesthetic. You can feel that same vibe that comes through with the characters. You can feel the way he shows characterization of certain people. You can really feel that within the film. If I didn't know, I feel like I would start to be, this feels very Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, that's kind of, summing up for me. I think it's just it feels like it's, Texas Chainsaw, but with that bigger budget. We got more actors, more sets, there's more soundtrack, and even some of the camera work that Tobe Hooper does is, all the shots that we get are slightly more refined, I think. It still has that low budget feeling, it still has that distinct Tobe Hooper feel, but there's just a little something about it which is like, for me, feels like it is a progression in the way in which he's making movies, but still very much, you made an amazing movie, but we're not going to give you a big budget. It's not like he, when John Carpenter did Halloween, and then his next project's got a lot more funding. It's almost like he went, actually, I still want to make a film.
I feel like Tobe Hooper pretty much. I'm not even sure towards the end. I feel like consistently, I feel like he was constantly knocked about throughout his career. By this kind of thing. A lot of people just couldn't quite give that. And it's interesting to think how much of his true vision has always been shown at times, because there always seems to be little cases that rise up. So no, and to be fair, I don't think I've seen most of his catalogue of film. To be fair, so I definitely need to go and find out some more Tobe Hooper, because I'm enjoying him now that I'm getting a little bit more used to his sensibilities. But there seems to be different versions of the director that we see, and I feel like this. As I said, this and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I feel like is more him.
It's more him, yeah.
Than Poltergeist or the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre actually is.
Yeah.
But I feel like those are a bit more tailored towards certain things he was doing, or the budget that he had to play with.
Yeah. Well, that's
interesting video nasty.
Yeah. That's what another video nasty ticked off. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please hit the subscribe button. Leave us a lovely review. If not, then you will be eaten alive by the crocodile that we are growing in the Cast Me to Hell.
I would say they go to hell, but that's against what we're doing.
That is against what we're doing.
You're not allowed into our hell.
You're allowed into our hell. And I just said we're growing a crocodile in the back garden. So I don't know how that's working, but it is working. As always, if you've seen Eaten Alive, come and let us know what you thought about it. If not, I'd recommend going and watching it, and then coming and letting us know your thoughts. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter @CMTH Podcast. We will see you soon. Goodbye.